Okay, everybody, welcome back to the channel. I'm Brian Lee Durfee, author of The Forgetting Moon, got it right here, and The Blackest Heart, and the upcoming Lonesome Crown, all published by Simon & Schuster's Saga Press. Today, I'm going to be reviewing Alastair Reynolds' novel, Revenger. Bum, bum, bum. Revenger. We always review the covers first because, you know, I love illustration and I love graphic design, and I love this book cover. Man, that is sharp. That thing is dope. We've got just the simple type, Alastair Reynolds' name, the title of the book, and this badass spaceship here. You know, with its sails and its like nuclear powered whatevers and its light speed drive, and you know, I don't know all the stuff that's going on with that, but that's just a cool cover. I love it. This is book number 1 in a trilogy that Alastair Reynolds did. Book number 2 here, which I will review soon, is Shadow Captain. And book number 3 is Bone Silence. So, I've got the entire... I got all my Alastair Reynolds books down here. We'll take a look at them. You know, that's the shelf they're on. Got a bunch of them there. We'll eventually reread them all and review them for the channel. Today, though, it's Revenger. It's a little bit of a different type of story than Alastair Reynolds usually tells. You know, if you've read Alastair Reynolds books, you know, they're very, very steeped in science, big, huge, massive science fiction ideas and great characters. And the writing is very, very dense, very Dune-like with the dense quality of it. I mean, you really got to pay attention to the writing of Alastair Reynolds as you read, because you can miss things if you don't pay attention. Now, this book, this trilogy, Revenger, he dials back on sort of the hard science fiction. He dials back on the prose. He really kind of streamlines it. And whereas with a lot of his books we're getting high science fiction, here we're getting more space opera. We're getting more simple Star Wars space opera type stuff, which is a bit of a change. And if you love Alastair Reynolds for the things that I've mentioned, just how complex and dense his writing style is and his plots are, this is very boiled down and very simplistic in comparison, however. And I went into it because a lot of people, I kind of looked at a few reads on, you know, Amazon, some of the reviews on Amazon and Goodreads, and it was kind of like, well, this is more young adult. I don't call it young. This is not young adult. But I can see why, if you're used to a certain style of Alastair Reynolds books, why this might come across as young adult. So, what is it about? This is straight space opera goodness. Yes, it is different from everything else that I've read of Alastair Reynolds. This is about two girls, teenage girls, Adrana and Furia Ness. They're teens. Their father wants to keep them as teens forever. So he's going to inject them with this sort of serum that keeps people at the age they are. And so he wants to have his teenage daughters be teenage daughters for the rest of his life. They're not really into that. And so they kind of like can come up with this thing where they go to, there's like a bazaar, like a carnival, and they meet sort of this soothsayer at the carnival. And, you know, they've got their robot Paladin. You know, there's this robot, which is cool. I like the little robot that's in and out of this book named Paladin. He's sort of like the guardian of these girls. He's like a cross between C-3PO and like R2-D2, but he follows these girls around. He's kind of like their guardian, but they sort of escape him. They like slip away from him here and there, but in the bazaar they slip away from him, and they go to this soothsayer, and she's like, hey man, you girls have all this talent for bone reading. And the bone reading is something, there's bauble reading, there's bone reading. I won't really get into what that is because it's kind of plot centric and I don't want to give away plot points here, but they're like talented as these bone readers, okay? And they're like, well, I know this ship captain, Rackmore, who's on this ship called the Monetus Morn, and he's lost his latest bone readers, and he needs more bone readers. And you guys are really good at bone reading, and it has to do with going to different planets and and scavenging different planets for their artifacts and different spaceship wrecks, different things that are out in the universe, and they're just kind of like pirates and scavengers, but they need these bauble readers and these bone readers and these different things to help them search for the things that they're searching for. These pirates, and they trade in these goods. And so anyway, the girls are like, that sounds a hell of a lot better than having our dad inject us with serum and keeping us teenagers for life. So let's go do that. And so they go do that. And the thing is the dad it's not like they just sort of run away in the middle of the night. They do the dad does find out, and he's like, okay, I'm disappointed that this is your choice, but I respect your choice. Go ahead and do what you want. And so they go join the crew of the Monedas Morn. And this is where I start, and this is all happening within the first 20 or so pages, folks. So I'm going to give a couple of tiny little beginning plot spoilers here. So within the first 50 or some odd pages, I'm reading and I'm learning, and the Monedas Morn is a cool little space. I mean, this is it. This is the spaceship, right? And I'm like, this is cool. There's like 9 people. We got the 2 teenage girls plus 7 other crew on this place. So I'm taking notes. I'm taking notes of I'm writing notes down of the different crew members that are showing up and their duties and who they are and what they look like. Because I'm thinking, the whole trilogy we're going to be spending on this ship with this crew. I want to get to know them. I don't want to have any mistakes. And then within the first, they don't get that far into their adventure, and this badass other space pirate named Bosa Senis or something like that, or they just call her Bosa, but she's just ruthless and she attacks the ship. And I won't say anything, but I threw my notes away. The nine crewmen of the Monedas Morn, I crumpled that up and got rid of that. Because Bosa is bad. She's not a good person. Ruthless. I will say that of the 9 crew of our spaceship that I thought we were going to follow for the rest of the trilogy, of the 9 crew, only like 3.5 of them survive Bosa's, and that's all I'm going to say. They survived Bosa's attack, right? So, and then I was like, oh my gosh. I liked the crew. I liked the ship. There was a massive, Captain Rackmore had this huge library on his ship, and I was like, oh, any captain that has a massive, dedicates an entire part of his ship to just having a cool library, that's cool, actual books. Not digital ebooks, but actual books. And he was very proud of it. And he was showing the teenage girls his books. And they were like, oh my gosh, this is the coolest thing we've ever seen. And I was like, that was pretty damn cool. I thought it was cool. And then, boom, Bosa, the evil pirate Bosa shows up, and Bob and her evil crew and everything done. I'm like, what? I was taking notes on these people. And now I can just get rid of it because they're dead. Rackmore, Kazari, Proser. These are the notes I was taking. Rackmore. I was writing the name. Proser. But, Jusquier, Matisse, Trigg, Tristel, Hishal. What jobs they were doing on the ship. I was really interested in. And there was a passage at page 35 at the top. Let me kind of. I love. And then now we're just going to talk about Alastair Reynolds' writing. So there's this within the first few pages. We get to know the crew, and then the crew is no longer with us, and then we're dealing with the teen girl. I'm not going to say what happens to the teen girls, but we see the paladin, the robot that watches over them, gets introduced back into the story, and the teen girls, they have these adventures with a lot of other different, more interesting characters to show up, and so don't worry about that. Just because their dream has sort of failed right from the get-go of the book doesn't mean that there's not a lot of cool things. And I actually really loved the fact that things went south very quickly in this book, and it opened my eyes. Became much more interested in the story, once everything went to shit, basically. Now, I love Alastair Reynolds' writings. And one of the things is I love his writings and his more adult. Like I said, this isn't really young adult, but it's written in a different style than most of Alastair Reynolds, but it's still got such a great style. And one of the things that I love is he describes a spaceship. And I want to read you just the description of this insides of this spaceship, because I just think it's gorgeous writing, and it really gives you a taste of how Alastair Reynolds is as a writer. So the Moneta Morn, it's almost as if the spaceship was as confusing and twisty as possible. And they couldn't have done a better job of making it confusing and twisty. It was a mad maze of passages and rooms and cupboards and doors. 400 spans doesn't seem like much. And maybe it isn't when you're speaking of a row of houses or a stroll through Maversham Park, but it's surprising how many little rooms you can stuff into the fat belly of a 400-span ship, and surprising how many different ways you can come up with of linking the rooms together, especially when there's no up or down or no good reason not to put a door in a ceiling or a window in a floor. Passages twisted, forked, doubled back on themselves for no sound argument. Ladders and stairways threaded between decks, while bone-scraping crawlways linked different compartments. There were hatches and ducts, elevators and winches, pipes and wires went everywhere, and the ship gurgled, hissed, and hummed to itself like a thing that was already alive. Light vine had been strung along the pipes and wires, encouraged to grow into all inhabitable spaces of the ship. Where the light vine couldn't be coaxed, other artificial lighting sources had been used. I mean, you can just get a picture of this ship just with all sorts of passages and different hidey holes, and that plays an important role. All the different passageways and hidey holes play an important role in when Bosa the pirate attacks them, because when things start to get bad, certain characters flee into this maze of hidey holes and passageways and compartments just out of sheer survival. And so that's why it's great that Alastair Reynolds describes the ship like that, because it plays such an integral role in what happens to the characters later, especially the ones that survive the pirate attack. And I really like this. I went into this with low expectations, which is weird because I have such high expectations for everything Alastair Reynolds writes. But then I heard that this trilogy was like a young adult trilogy, so it's kind of like, I don't really like young adult books. But then I found out very, very, very quickly that it's not young adult. Not at all. I mean, it is bloody, grim, and gruesome. The difference is the writing style is just a little more like these Star Wars Legends adventures, it's just a little more fast-paced, and I guess that's what I'm saying. He's stripped down a lot of the high-tech science of his other books, and he's just given us a straight-up space opera. With, the science isn't really explained a whole lot. I mean, it's all just more magical, like Sith and Jedi magic, like we've got the bone readers and the bauble readers, which is just more of kind of like a magic thing that's never really explained to us, other than some people are born with the talent of the Jedi or the talent of the bone readers. And that's kind of all we get. And it's just a simple space opera that just is fast-paced, and I loved it. I loved it. I love his other stuff too. That's surprising to me, and I always appreciate when different authors who write a certain way can just switch over and write a completely opposite way and still be successful. I think Brandon Sanderson does a fantastic job of that. And there's a few other authors I can mention that do that too, where they're known for one style of writing and they're just like, I'm going to try something different here, and it worked. It worked absolutely greatly. This I actually really, like I said, pleasantly surprised. Went in with low expectations, came out absolutely 100% pleasantly surprised. This is just a very, very good, fast-paced space opera that I think anybody that loves Star Wars, Battlestar Galactica, or any of those kind of stories is going to love. The Expanse, very, very similar to The Expanse and Firefly, if you like those kind of things. I give this a 9 out of 10.